Welcome everyone to our season 2 of episode 24. We are beginning a new season in our podcast, Cultivating a New Generation. And as part of this second season, we are going to have a new way of interacting with the podcast. This is going to be also an option to see the video of the podcast and start diving and jumping in the information of integrative health with science or integral health with science in our sessions that we are going to have. So you can visit the video option in the YouTube channel at davidortegab.com. That's the easiest way to find the podcast in YouTube, and of course in all of the other platforms, which are Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, and many others. So as part of this new season and this new way that we are interacting with the world, of course, it couldn't miss an episode that can be polemic, but of course, it has a lot of information to interact with, and that many people also have questions and things that they can share. And this episode is about COVID, the virus that changed the world. And to start navigating in the deep waters of this virus and the disease and everything that is happening with these lockdown measures, we have to begin with defining what is a virus, with starting with the science of how the virus is infecting the cells and what it's doing inside of us. So in order to do that, we are going to first define that the single or any kind of virus is not an alive organism. They need a host to start replicating and sustaining their lives. So as they attach to the surface of the cell or the membrane, which they have to do it with the spike protein and other accessory proteins that they have in the envelope outside, they have to start differentiating these kind of viruses and the proteins with different names. In the case of the COVID virus, it is the S proteins or the spike protein. So many of these proteins can have different labels. They are all proteins, and also many of them have glycoproteins. So they inject their material, their genetic material, that in this case of the COVID virus is an RNA virus. So they inject the virus, they take control of all the machinery inside of the cell, and they can now manipulate the proteins, and they start assembling more viruses, more particles that they are going to release once the cell bursts and starts giving birth to many other viruses that are going to start doing the same, infecting another cell, uh, interacting with the machinery or hijacking the machinery of the cell and start replicating. During those phases is when you start feeling the body pain, and internally your body is releasing an army and a cascade of cytokines, interleukins, and more secondary messengers to fight the disease and prevent the infection of other cells. If your immune system is ready and is healthy, is responsive and strong, then you will have this kind of interactions and symptoms, the body pain, the fever, and other symptoms that I'm going to mention as we go along. The course of the disease, of course, can vary from many people and can encompass some of these symptoms that I'm going to mention and others additional. It is not something that can be generalized, or this physical experience or the duration of them. We cannot say that these are exactly those symptoms for everyone. We cannot say that there is a rule because we don't have the same organism. We don't have the same lifestyle, and we don't have the same measures as taking care of our body. That's why it varies. So the duration, of course, can also vary, and many of these circumstances will depend on your lifestyle, which encompasses everything, encompasses the way you interact with people around you, the toxic environment or healthy environment that you are generating in terms of your relationships, the stress levels, the emotional status, of course, if you have any problems inside of your family or with your friends or in your job, that has a lot to do with becoming infected and also with the interaction that you are going to have with the disease. So many of these different varieties that we have inside in our environment will be also how we process and how we recover from the disease. And one very important thing that is now being published and being discovered is that our state of mind helps or can be damaging to ourselves in terms of the recovery process, and not letting ourselves be carried away with the mainstream fear or with the incongruencies is something that is extremely important in the way you handle the disease, in the way you are interacting with everything that is happening. So one thing that is for sure and that we can verify once we start cursing or dealing with this disease is that it is not, of course, natural virus. It is something that came here to teach us a lot of things. It is an artificial virus. It is something that is created. It is something that I am labeling an artificial disease. And of course, we have to maintain a student mindset because this virus can teach us a lot about our inner health and about the messages of our bodies. So we are being challenged with this virus as well as with the measures. So please keep in mind that I know I have course, I have suffered the disease, and I know that there are moments that you feel that everything is black or gray or cloudy, and you can see sometimes the good through the symptoms. But if you keep the mindset of learning and you start using rituals and tools in order to give you more hope that you will get through the disease, it really matters and it really changes your internal interaction. So this new nature of artificiality of the virus is, of course, a biological weapon. And I dare to say that because any other virus can make this kind of damage, and it cannot interact with so many organs in such a destructive way. So it is enhanced. It was designed to damage not one, but several organs inside of you, also your senses, and to start trapping yourself in cycles of anxiety or depression. Everyone that has experienced this disease can verify it and can feel all of this range of symptoms and the huge amount of draining energy that this entity is performing inside of you. In this world where practically 80% of the conversation surface the lockdown experience, the restrictions, the effects, the symptoms, with the huge number of contradictions, lies, and experiencing now the long-term effects, there is still a ray of light, a ray of wisdom, lessons that are encapsulated in the whole journey of healing with this disease. It all begins by clarifying how is this disease a multi-organ damaging virus that was completely designed, fabricated, tested to start seeing the damage of people the collateral symptoms, of course, that are associated with the failure of each of the organs that is attacking. So now we will begin with the list of symptoms. Remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving advice on how to treat the disease or the exact symptoms that you can have. I have a background in science. I studied biochemistry, engineering biochemistry. I then did a master's degree in molecular biomedicine. I then did a PhD in epigenetics of obesity. So I know what I'm talking about. I worked 13 years in the pharmaceutical industry. So I know what I'm talking about vaccines and the research and the clinical trials and everything, but I cannot give medical advice. So this is just a reference point from my experience, from my background, and to help people navigate with the symptoms, or to help other friends or family members to cope with this kind of mindset that we can have, and to also help them to start having more awareness of the symptoms that they can experience, because many times this is something that should be published in all of these web pages of the so-called experts and health institutions. But nowadays, this is something that we can also verify. We cannot trust about them at all, because many times they are saying incongruencies, many times they are saying just things that are, I don't know, taken from where. And many times this kind of information that is to help you to cope with the disease is just prohibited, canceled, or taken down from the sites. So let's start with this list of these symptoms. Some of them can be cough, shortness of breath, which is also called dyspnea, headache, nausea, diarrhea, dizziness, rash, or these kind of reactions in your skin, body pain. This is extremely high in your muscles, in your joint, even in your hair, in your skin, back pain, kidney demand. What does this mean? That your kidneys are working overtime because this disease is challenging you with the things that you have to detoxify and all of the water that you need in order to start releasing in many options the virus, the toxic particles, and also giving nutrients to your body. Liver demand, because your liver will deal with the medications if you are taking anything to heal the disease or to heal the pain. And of course, your liver is also working overtime because sometimes you are not going to be hungry and your liver has to start signaling your system so that you use other accessories to give you energy and to allow the immune system to work. Damage to the lungs, loss of appetite, loss of smell and taste, fever or chills, sore throat, congested or runny nose, eyes burning, or tired. So those are the symptoms that are the most common. They are not the only ones, but you can have a lot more. As you can see and verify from this huge of symptoms, no nature or no natural disease can be able to do that. And this huge variety practically demands all of your energy. Mood regulation towards feeling better. Also, how can you feel better if you are experiencing this huge amount of symptoms? No one can deal with that. And of course, your mood is not the best while you're coping with this disease. So through these challenging phases of the disease, the course of the disease that will enhance or deteriorate your health is the ability to cope with your emotional regulations. Your emotions will play a very important role. Just by reading the list, of course, that even if you have not experienced this infection, you can just by common sense think that no one experiencing all of these symptoms can have a good mood. So there is a lot of evidence now that people that can maintain still hope and still implement some of these accessory rituals or practices, such as meditating, journaling, or being in gratitude state, that will help you to feel a lot better. Truthfully, there are some days that your body will really seem that it's just overwhelmed. And all you can do is being lay down. If you happen to be a more conscious or spiritual person, you will have the support of the meditations, of listening to empowering content, of having probably some more energies and at some periods of the day to journal, to write about something that enlightens your day. So there is a mix of emotions, expectations, and discussions around this disease that has created what these people that I can't ever call them elite. For me, they are just puppeteers, ignorants, and psychopaths that are too ambitious to generate this kind of biological wars. The massive death of weak or elderly people, which of course, from their standpoint, they are just draining the health system and not producing or having a brighter future in terms of what they plan. So that's why they develop this kind of biological weapon. That's why this all drama or circus was designed to implement what they want, which is a new economical system and more control over us. And of course, start creating this division that we are seeing all over the world. But if we are smart enough, we are going to push through. There is going to be a new wave of people, a new human breed, and we can do it with these advices. Second of this kind of experience that we are going to have is creating irrational and incongruent measures that we have seen of lockdown, safety protocols that at certain point they will fail to be compliant with the spread of the virus because that is not the way to act. Not using real science to support or justify many of the measures that they are using arguments that can show that the purpose is just behind and it's just an agenda to implement their new artificial society, the new zombie society that can be more controlled. Third, that is another point that you can be aware of, implementing, of course, a new vaccine protocol that will keep raising the wealth of the pharmaceutical mafia and, of course, of many of the tech billionaires that in this case, they are also supporting the release of vaccines unethically, rushed without even doing shorter trials in animals, at least to measure the side effects that in the long term we could have from these kind of vaccines, and that now are being reported in many countries, of course, with many people that are having a lot of these diseases, like autoimmune diseases, problems with concentrating, brain problems, or in many cases, also death of people. And I'm not inventing things, I'm just speaking for what I could verify from the buyer side and from many other people that are being taken down and they are experts in the matter that are also reporting many of these events. But of course, the strategy is to block this information. If there were transparency, I'm not against vaccines. I work and I have seen many of the old vaccines that they work, they can protect you if you need it, but you cannot force people to take a vaccine. It is just taking away all of the rights, and it goes against the good clinical practices. So those are the guidelines of every kind of research that has to be done. You have to be ethically first, and you have to use experiments and test things before you can go to humans trials. So that's not being responsible. That is just creating value for the investors and just manipulating the system with the social media, with news and everything that they are doing. So these are just the peak of the iceberg in terms of the measures, in terms of things that they are doing to damage the whole world, whether you are healthy at some point in your life, whether you have successful small or medium business or not, everyone is experiencing the symptoms either of the disease, either of the vaccine, either of the lockdown. Everything is changing, and we are being put into a big test. That's why I can now say that it is changing the world and it is changing the human beings. All the side effects of the lockdown measures, the lies, the incongruence of the forced imposition are spiking now the mental disease burden. They are raising many of the chronic illnesses because there are no medications and no treatment for those diseases now that the COVID is the sensation. And they are producing a weak bubble society. Why? Because we are taking away the interaction with the things, with the viruses, with other things that boost our immune system. So if you have been taking care of you and not going out and using always the masks, how do you think your immune system is going to be strong if you have not deal with anything, with the normal life, with the social interaction? So it is obvious that we are going to have a very depressed immune system after this. So many of these skills are going to be lost, the social skills, the abilities, the joy of life for many people, for many groups of people, and particularly for children. It is being a very challenging situation. So under under all this drama, under all this chaos, under all this catharsis that also I am doing, and the turmoil that we are seeing, there is a silver lining. There is some hope if you have got this far into the interaction with the podcast and the new way of thinking about the disease and challenging people to be more critical and to keep the mindset and to keep the prefrontal cortex working. So to begin with these lessons, the rituals, the learnings about all of these experiences, whether you were infected of the disease, you have the vaccine, or you are just being experiencing symptoms of the lockdown, these are the new normal circumstances that we are going to be experiencing. To begin with, we will have a new level of sensory, of intuition that we can develop from being just in this new world. Even if you are not being infected by the disease, there is a lot of enlightening situations if you start raising your observation skills, if you start creating a much higher perception of the symptoms of everything that is interacting and how each of them is the wisest repertoire of your body's wisdom to fight the disease if you are experiencing it, or if you are just seeing the collateral symptoms. So in terms of the symptoms, fever, diarrhea, vomiting, rash, cough, stuffy nose, or runny nose, many of these are giving you the clue of what is your body doing. So either symptom is the way of your immune system to interact with the virus to fight. The other symptoms of dizziness, loss of smell, taste, appetite, and extreme fatigue are collateral symptoms due to the immune reaction to the cytokine storm, to the cascade of interleukins and many anti-inflammatory messengers that are also performing their patrolling job throughout the body. Appreciating and having a gratitude mindset while you are in these draining symptoms. Of course, focusing on the expectations that you will get better as time goes by, not only eases the job of your body, but it also enhances your mood, raises your emotions, and keeps your immune system ready and able to keep fighting the virus and giving you back your health as soon as possible. Empathizing with other people that are also suffering the disease, the vaccine symptoms, or the lockdown consequences is something that is also part of the journey. As you become more sensitive, more emotionally bonded with friends, people, family, um, in spirit, reflecting and cherishing all the simple things that you are able to do as you alleviate from the symptoms gives you a different perspective of life that definitely changes your concept of health, your body, gratitude messages, and the future when you start envisioning that you are going through, that you are seeing the light and you are feeling better and you are recovering your energy. So all of this pause, stillness, and slow return to your normal activities is something to be cherished on, is something that many times you don't appreciate. And now you are really being challenged to appreciate the simple things in life. And now everything starts to pay off and you can really handle with just a small percentage of your multiple activities or chores that taking a shower is something that has to be or you should be grateful for. Having a roof under your head is something to be grateful for. Breathing normally is something to be grateful for. Having the stamina or the energy to just give a short walk is something to be grateful for. So we can just focus our attention on the gratitude messages that we can have about our bodies and the way they give us health every day. So without sounding disrespectful or judgmental, if after having the interaction with this disease, you don't change the way you appreciate your life or you are grateful for your life and many of the things around you, definitely you will keep attracting more and more challenging experiences until you understand that the simplest way of living is just enjoying everything around you, being grateful for your life in all the facets, in all the schemes, in all the views, and contributing to raise your vibrations, to expand that ripple effect, and to give people hope that we can do a much better job in terms of how we interact with the society. Finally, to end this episode, this new era and this new society that will be stronger, that's my hope, that's my optimistic view, and will be stronger and more resilient for the ones that have decided to take advantage of all this time and all these experiences. They have compromised with themselves, not with anyone else, to really change and evolve, will definitely breathe and give birth and replicate and expand to a much conscious, spiritual, and unified human race that optimistically in the future we will be able to overturn all of the damage that we have done with our Mother Earth. So I invite you to really reflect upon everything that I have spoken about this COVID and the virus experience to change the world. And if you like this message, this interaction with the podcast, this way of seeing the things with a different lens, different glasses, you can share this experience with your friends, with your family, with everyone. And if you like this content, subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the podcast in the platform that allows you to interact more or that you enjoy more. Thank you for your attention, and we'll see each other on our next episode. Have a wonderful day or night.